Hey, Brett here. Paradox Diaries, 26, 27, give or take. I'm going to start by shaking, and I'm going to sort of go into that really quickly, and then I'm going to say some other stuff. But let's talk about shaking for a second. I'm doing this for the health benefits. I'm doing it for the mental benefits. I'm doing it because I sleep better, et cetera, et cetera. So let me sell you on this thing. The only downside is you have to do it, but you can do it gently. I do this before going to bed, and I find that I sleep much better. And what I mean by that is, instead of waking up about every hour and a half to 3 hours, I wake up, say, first time after about 6 hours or 7 hours. And so my sleep is much better. So all I'm doing is I've got my feet about hip width apart, and I'm just sort of lightly bouncing. You can use your muscles, you can use your bones. For example, if I arch back a little bit, I'm now more into my hips, my hip flexors. Feels a little more bouncy because I'm using the ligaments and the tendons. But the idea here is I'm just gently shaking my body. And what that does is it helps reset your nervous system and other systems in your body. The way our body's systems, where various systems work, they're complicated systems. And that's a technical term. And what that means is they tend to respond, among other things, it means a lot of things. But one thing is you learn about them by experimenting. You try something and see how you respond. So now I'm going to take a short break into heart rate variability, because that's exactly the point I want to make about that. I've been measuring my heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is a pretty easy to get metric that is a good, really good proxy measurement for overall body health, vascular health, mental health, etc. And you can tell if your body is stressed when it is a lower value or suppressed, and you're relaxed when it's higher. You can also look at trends over time and then start to use it, for example, to predict whether you're ready for a good hard workout day, if that's something you're into or not. So it's a really handy metric. I'm wearing a Polar chest rate monitor right now, or chest strap. I don't get anything for saying that. In fact, I'm not using it, so I'm gonna just unplug it there. I have turned it off there, so I'm not using the battery. And then I took my heart rate variability before, and I'll take it after, and then in the morning. So my numbers from last night were, I think it was 23 to start, or 29 to start, and then 49. Yeah, 23 to 49. That's right, 23 to 49. I woke up low at a 53. Tonight I'm starting at 48. You know, my numbers mean whatever my numbers mean. I can predict that I'll probably be in the low 50s, and then if I get a good night's sleep, I'll wake up probably close to 60, or maybe even in the low 60s. And what that tells me is I'm about where I would normally expect to be for the day. If it's low, I'll probably feel tired. If it's even higher, who knows? But I'm noticing a very slight upward trend. But more importantly, shaking resets the system. So I talked about metrics and measurements and complicated systems. So why the numbers? Why the metrics? I'm doing this, and then I'm finding out how it affects me. Now, I didn't intend to do this. This was a random thing. I've had this practice for a decade or so, but I didn't do it on a regular basis. And then something, as a result of a reason, I started doing it on a regular basis. And when I started doing it, I started noticing some immediate health benefits. And then I dialed up to 10 minutes. And the 10 minutes was for an experiment in terms of its effect on HRV. And in doing that, one, I found out that sure enough, it does in fact improve your HRV. It improves my sleep, et cetera, et cetera. Improves my mental capacity, my ability to focus, my reactivity. So it turns down my reactivity overall. So it has very much similar effects to meditation. And really what this practice is primarily, it's a parasympathetic dominant practice. Now, technically it's not. It's a balancing practice, but since most of us are tight and wound up, it tends to come off as parasympathetic dominant, but really it's homeostatic balancing, which just tells you if this is turning your parasympathetic system up and it's yet a balancing practice, then you are turned up. And you're probably turned up if you're on your phone, you're turned up if you're watching the news, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, there's something to be said about sampling the news versus watching the news. And, you know, there's not really any good news anyway. And I don't mean that in good news, bad news. I mean, as in everything's so biased and just trying to get a reaction out of you. There's pretty much almost no value in listening to news at all, in my opinion. So your nervous system is probably on fire all day long. It's in heavy use. It's in consume mode. You're drinking caffeine. You're not getting enough sleep. You're driving in traffic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these daily stresses, just stress, toxins, smoke, lack of sunlight, dirty air, all these things. We could keep going on. Microplastics and everything. Do you use a lot of skincare products? Do you have a lot of parabens in skincare products, et cetera, et cetera? So you've got to find something that balances your whatever's going on. Now, here's the thing: I'm not suggesting that you make a big change at all, because if you do something that's better than what you're doing now, let's see what happens then. So go back to that complex system thing. Our bodies are complex systems. I have no idea what's going to happen. I had no idea what was going to happen as a result of shaking. I originally did it because I got a bite on my thumb from a cat and I wanted to get better blood flow, and I know it works with blood flow. And then I had all these other ancillary benefits, and as a result, I'm like, okay, I'm sold on this practice. This is my practice. It may not be your practice, but the thing is, I randomly did one thing and I observed a lot of additional benefits, and so I kept doing it. And that's really the ultimate meta secret. You got to try something. You're going to fail most of the time, and that's fine. You'll learn something. So really, it's not technically a failure. It's only a failure if you got nothing out of it. Like if you went in and you had a big question mark and you came out and you had the same big question mark, you didn't make any difference. But let's say you went in and you found out you didn't like it. That's not a failure. That's a success. You just found out something you don't need to spend any more time on. And you found out by trying it. And that's huge difference, huge deal, huge deal. I can remember in was it the late 90s or early aughts, and probably the early aughts, I remember getting irritated with people complaining about COBOL who had never used COBOL. It's a programming language. I used it a little bit, and it's a terrible language, but it's also the backbone of banking transactions and so on. So it doesn't matter whether the language is good or bad because it's still heavily in use. But people complaining about the language, and actually even now complaining about languages. Why do people complain about programming languages? I mean, I get it. There's not a single great programming language except for Smalltalk. Or if you're a Lisper, it's Lisp. It's either Smalltalk or Lisp. I don't care. Pick one of those two, both of them. But the point is, there's nothing. Okay, all languages are models, right? All programming languages are models. All models are, by definition, a model by definition is a failure. If it's not, then it's the thing, right? For something to be a model, it has to approximately represent certain characteristics of a thing, but not all characteristics of a thing. It's not possible, right? I mean, if you really get down to it, you've got Heisenberg uncertainty principle at the core, but it's just higher up, right? Pointing to a thing is not the thing. Hey, that's the moon. No, I'm looking at the moon. I'm pointing at the moon, but what I'm pointing at is not the moon. The moon's over there. I'm not on the moon. I'm not touching the moon. I'm not experiencing the moon other than I'm experiencing the sun reflecting off the moon onto my eyes. So I'm experiencing sunlight reflecting off the moon. That's why I'm seeing the moon, right? That's not the same thing as being on the moon. And that's really the point. So a model is a representation of something that hopefully serves a purpose. All right. So our body's models are generally complex systems. A good observation about such systems is you can start to get information about them by probing them. You try something, see how it works. So, for example, go to bed at the same time for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. See what happens. Change how you sit at work. Add something to your coffee. Take something away from your coffee. Just make changes. Try random changes. This has a number of effects. Breaking habits is a good thing to do because it makes you aware of habits. So a habit of breaking habits is a great way to avoid habits. There's a paradox for you right there. But also, changing things over time is sort of acknowledgement of what's going to happen anyway. Like, for example, my salad smoothie thing. I was doing a salad smoothie every day. And then it got bigger, and then it got bigger, and I just kept adding to it and getting it complicated. Then I got out of the habit for a reason, and now I'm not doing them as often. I'm doing them 4 or 5 days a week instead of 7 days a week. Still getting pretty much the same benefit, and I'm enjoying it. And also, I was doing all this stuff I was doing sprouting and all that, and I just put that to rest because at the beginning, what I was doing was simple, and it was working, and is a tendency on my part. I get more and more complicated until I get something that's so complicated it finally collapses in on itself. And so what I'm doing here instead, because I find that the nutrition from the salad smoothie is so helpful, I'm just going to change the habits to back to a place where they're not a habit, not a problem. And I just have to remind myself that even though I could be doing so much more, I don't need to. This was doing something, and if I do this and I stop doing it, then the fact that it's better is irrelevant. So that's something that's important when you're making changes. Don't make big changes, make small changes. Find something that actually is better than what you're doing that you can stick to, because it doesn't matter how big the change is. What matters is that you've demonstrated to yourself that you can make a change. Once you make a change, you make another change. And honestly, the biggest stumbling block to making big change is you're not willing to make the small change. In fact, you're so enamored, attached to what you want to get to, that you don't see opportunity in front of you that you could move forward on and get better, right? So let's go back to the diet thing, because that's kind of where this all started. Whatever your diet is, right? Don't change anything about it, right? However you're eating, except, okay, principle one, when you want to change, it's easier to add than remove. Add something. Okay, principle one. Okay, so here's an example of something that I added to my diet. When I want to have some carbs, because I know carbs are going to spike my blood, I'll make sure to have some fat with them. Right, there you go. That's something simple. So if I'm going to eat something that I know is going to cause my blood sugar to spike, I could try to have the wherewithal to not do that. But at some point, at times, I'm going to have carbs. I'm just going to do it. So make sure I have some fat or some protein ahead of time. And that might be raw butter. Raw butter. I'm just a dollop of butter, salted, not plain. Coconut oil, olive oil. Maybe I'll just have some salt. Sometimes I'll just have salt instead to just a little bit of salt to trick myself into not wanting carbs. But the thing is, I've completely lost my train of thought. Changing habits. So what you can do is, let's say you're trying to, I don't know, doing something dietary. You want to add something that's good for you. All right. I added a salad smoothie. That's a big deal. That's a whole lot. But is there something you could add that would at least allow you to start having some kind of therapeutic effect so that you could feel it? Because for me, the salad smoothie I was just trying to get back to where I was feeling better. And the salad smoothie worked a lot better than I expected. And then it turns out the reason for that is I was eating enough red meat and processed food. When you do that, one of the side effects is your blood tends to get thicker, right? It tends to the response of the body to keep the blood alkaline about the same is it ends up producing more red blood cells. And you would think more red blood cells good, but nope, it causes traffic jams. So just like you want to have about 70% utilization and 30% slack so that you can actually have some space for creativity, you don't want your blood so thick that it can't flow well. And so eating leafy green vegetables will often help balance out the alkalinity of the blood and actually thin out your blood to a point where you have more efficient oxygen flow. And I noticed that. I didn't know why it was happening, but I did know that I was less tired on days that I had the fruit smoothie or the salad smoothie. Also, my sugar cravings are quite a bit less. More so if I eat whole raw almonds without getting rid of the tannins. So I'll soak my seeds, but I keep the tannins, because while the tannins are anti-nutrient, they also tend to help moderate blood glucose. And so in my case, the tannins work for me. They don't upset my stomach. Your results may vary. So a lot of people do not like raw almonds. I can apparently eat cardboard. So I've got that. So I grew up on a farm, and I exposed myself to horse and cow manure and fields of corn and soybeans and all the kinds of pollen you could imagine. So growing up, I got a pretty good immune system. And also I can eat a lot of crap. It's not like I like good food, but I can also drink a salad smoothie, which is an advantage. So make small changes and keep making small changes. And when I say small, no matter how small you're thinking right now, I'll say this. If you think you have something you need to change at the moment, like you need to change something about yourself, then whatever you're doing, you're not taking a small enough step. You don't need to do anything. Just do it. And I know that sounds impossible, but if you look at the thing that you're wanting to do, and this is like a universal thing. If this is the distance, Can you get a little bit of distance? Really, a little bit is all you need. A little bit plus a little bit plus a little bit eventually adds up. I weigh 250 pounds, and I was a Pillsbury Pro Puff Boy in 2015, and I've got pictures to prove it. They're online. I don't look like the same person. I know I look like me, but other people will say that's not you, and in fact, it is me. And then I slowly started changing, and it took years. I found a couple of huge step things that made a difference for me. But for example, I did a ketogenic diet, and I did it really pretty much. My only rule was 20 net carbs a day. I did a dirty keto diet, and then in 6 months I lost a bunch of weight. However, what I don't often mention is that before that, I had already spent roughly 8 months changing my coffee drinking habits. So I used to do coffee and sugar and 2% milk because I was in the fat is bad for you thing. Fat's not bad for you. Denatured fat's not great for you. And the milk you get from the grocery store isn't great for you because it's been bleached and processed, but fat's fine for you. I lost a lot of weight eating a lot of fat, like 80% fat. So if you can handle it, fat's great. But long term, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend generally low glycemic index. Just moderate your macros and try to get your micros. Don't worry about your diet. All diets are religions. And respectfully, I mean, if you look at the length of the species, diets have existed for less than 5,000 years. We've been along, that's less than 5% of the existence of the population. So pretty much anything that we talk about with respect to food is a belief system. And I don't care about belief systems. I want to know, is it nutritionally healthy for you? I love rice. I love rice. It spikes the hell out of my blood sugar. I just don't eat rice very often. And if I'm going to have rice, I'm going to douse it in butter because, rice and butter and salt is yummy. But I'm just not going to have rice as much as I love it. I can have chickpeas. So fine, I can cook an Indian dish and throw it on chickpeas instead of rice. That's me. You might be fine with rice, but I really don't want to be pushing type 2 diabetes tendencies into my body and then causing an epigenetic expression in my cell at the cellular level that turns on basically insulin resistance, which means you're type 2 diabetic, and then you're well on your way to type 3 diabetes, which is just basically mental decline. I have no idea how long I've been shaking for. I've got to imagine it's been at least 10 minutes. I can check the time. Oh, yeah. Now, since I was already I was more parasympathetic dominant than typical. Hey, Chess, look out, buddy. Here I come. I'm going to get you. Yeah, I know. I'm going to bet it. Here it comes. I'm putting it down. Careful. Oh, come on. I'm not going to get you. All right, there we go. So I'm going to use this now instead of the pillows for my knees. I want to do, I'm going to be working on my hips again, doing the front splits. And the reason for that is my hips are way open. Like my hips just feel lighter. I feel much more open. I can tell I've been releasing my psoas muscle. I've just got so much freedom here that I haven't had in 30 plus years that I'm going to keep doing this. And my heel has gotten better, but I'm still not going to do on the ground. So I'm going to basically just get into the front splits. And I want to show something about this chair that I haven't shown. It may not be obvious, but this is a yoga chair, and it's one I can do a neck stand in. But what I'm doing is I'm basically getting my calf here, and then I'm letting my leg fall down through here. So it works out really well for the kind of thing I'm doing here. But you don't need this. A folding chair. I've done it on a folding chair. Folding chairs are great. I've got these blue folding chairs with nice pillows. And if I didn't have this, I'd use that. Okay, so front splits. The last 2 times I did splits, the first time I did them 3 nights ago, I loosened up my hamstrings. Two times ago, or 2 nights ago, I did the front of my thighs here. I'm going to do a 3-minute blaster, and what that will do is that's going to warm up a little bit of my hamstring. Sorry, a little bit of my hamstring and a little bit of my hip flexor. I'll do 3 minutes per side. And that's just to sort of get myself going. And then when I go into the front splits, I think what I'll do is I'll do something like a couple minutes and then I'll do some PNF. So I might try to accelerate the front split practice just a touch. Now, where's my timekeeping? Where are one of my timekeeping devices? Have I just covered them? Oh, there's one. Okay, here we go. So for blaster, I'm gonna start in the tabletop. Hello, Kitty. Then I'm gonna take, say, in this case, I'll take my right foot, I'll put it up up by my right hand, take my right foot, rotate it out, say 45 degrees. In this case, since I'm kind of at 45 degrees, I'm gonna point it that way. And then I'm going to take my back left leg, I'm gonna slide my leg back, my knee is right on the ground, or in the case on a pad, and then I'm just gonna do this. Let's say you can't hold this pose, by the way. Use a chair. In fact, hang on. Actually, I'm going to demonstrate something, because this is a great freaking pose, and this is what I mean about small improvements. Okay, so I can't. Let's say you're just starting with this pose, and I really can't hold it. I'm getting a big freaking stretch right there. Huge stretch right there. My left hip flexor is getting a great stretch. Is it the same stretch as what I was just doing? No. Is it better than not doing it? 1,000,000%. Actually, literally infinite percent. All right. So don't worry about looking like I'm doing it. You got to worry about not hurting yourself. So don't hurt your joints. Like, my joints aren't feeling anything right now. I've got pressure on my left knee. My patella is pointing straight down, but it's flat. It doesn't bother me. And in fact, I can put my patella down on the carpet, no problem, or even on pavement now. So my knees have gotten much more resilient. Actually, I got to stop doing this. That's a really good stretch right there. I'm not losing anything from that stretch, because the stretch is here and the stretch is here. The stretch isn't up here. Now, in fact, if I hold on to this, I can now get my torso in a place where it's doing a lot more work. So do not worry about using props, and do not worry about looking like me. What you want to worry about is, one, are you feeling a good stretch? Two, is it sort of discomfort, or is it pain? Now, when I say pain, can you point to it? If you can point to it, back off slowly. And I say slowly because don't move quickly, right? One of the things that happens is, once you start getting good at really relaxing your muscles, you are debilitating them shortly, for a short amount of time, turning off the nervous system, and the fibers are really stretched. So your muscles are actually weaker. This is done after everything else, not before. If I do, say, the pose I was about to do for 5 minutes on both sides, and I want to walk downstairs, I'm gonna either wait a few minutes or use both my hands, because my legs are weak at that point. And that's the purpose of this. I'm really stretching and debilitating the muscles temporarily, and then I'm also training the nervous system. And so effectively, I'm strengthening my muscles by making them so that they're more able to relax. And the other muscles that I'm using to hold my body up, well, guess what? They're getting a stretch too, or they're getting strength. So I'm getting some strength on my arms, and then I'm getting a stretch in my hips. And this stretch, again, there's three things going. There's a lot, but there's at least three things. Thing one, hamstrings right. Thing two, hip flexors left. Thing three, if you look, I'm going at a diagonal, so I'm stretching my hip in a diagonal direction. Here, I'm going to pet you, buddy. So Mr. Chesterfer is stopping me from putting my chest all the way on the ground. Well, I guess he moved now. Okay. That's fine. Now right here, I'm getting more on my hip flexor. When I was all the way down, it's comfortable. My right leg was taking most of it, but now I'm actually getting a little more action in my hip flexor on the left side. It's just a hinge, right? My arm is holding my shoulder. my patella is on the ground, and so I'm allowing my entire left side to relax like an arch to gravity. And so I'm getting a really nice side stretch as well right here. And if you can drop in your shoulder, you can also get, ooh, that's a bit much there. Get a little bit of stretch in your rotator cuff and actually in my shoulder blade a little bit. Okay. Now there's a version of Blaster called Fallen Blaster, and it's literally just dropping, in this case, my left side onto the ground and looking up. Or I could do a twisted blaster and grab my leg, but I think since this is just a warm-up pose the way I'm doing it, and by the way, I'm just making that term up. There's no such thing as a warm-up pose. The first pose you do is going to be a warm-up pose because you're doing it first. But if you do it for 5 minutes, it goes from a warm-up pose to totally the same thing. So I'm just doing this because by doing this and then doing it on the other side, my body is going to be a lot more prepared to go into the front splits. And I'm only doing this for 3 minutes. Since I normally do it for 5 minutes, it doesn't really take a lot of mental effort for me to do a pose for 3 minutes like this. It's nothing compared to the front splits. And what I've noticed is, as I'm doing these deep poses for a good amount of time, I come out of them and I'm reacting as if I'm in pain the way I'm breathing, but I'm not breathing. So my nervous system hasn't quite figured out exactly how to react to really long, deep stretches. Okay, now this is my renegade side. So in fact, I'm going to do something. I'm going to add a minute to this side. Nope, I can't do it that way. I'll do it this way. There we go. That's close enough. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm extending my arm a little bit. Now, I'm taking a little bit of force to do this, but first of all, I'm going to externally rotate because then I'm going to allow myself to sort of somewhat use my external ligaments and tendons there to hold the arm up a little bit. But what I'm doing is by shifting my weight a little bit, I can just change a little bit where the stretch is. I go in a little bit deeper, pet the kitty. The petting of the kitty has a couple of effects. One, I'm moving a little bit, so I'm getting slight undulations in the pose. And two, petting your kitty, petting your puppy, this is a parasympathetic activity. And so if you can hold the pose without moving too much and pet your kitty, go for it. I don't recommend it, honestly, but he kind of insists. And so I use it as a practice in trying not to react too much. And I've got a couple years into it, and I've got many decades left, I suspect. Okay, there we go. Oh, the outside of my left hip, my abductors, AB abductors are really having something to say. Oh, okay, that's too much. I'm feeling the tendons on my kneecap pull when I drop my hip like that, so I got to pull back a little bit. The more you do this, the more you'll be amazed at how tightly connected your body is. And you start to see the X pattern from left to right in the way the body is balanced. And that left-right asymmetry is necessary. If you're by doing the cross balancing that way, it's gonna tend to help in terms of feedback loops because it forces feedback left right, and as a result of that, you're basically forcing whole brain integration. And while I'm just making this up as I go along, what I'm saying about this, it just makes sense that if you had a slightly deficient side and you didn't have this balance, then by not crossing over, the feedback over years would be too great. So I would suspect that there's a genetic predisposition for right-left symmetry in terms of like top-bottom on the body, which means then when we draw the infinity symbol, which represents the yin yang, or what circles the yin yang, that's just an observation of necessity, of biological necessity through a survival bias, because asymmetry in this case is going to lead to a balanced right-left feedback and keep your body growing more symmetrically. And I'm just making that up, but I'm pretty certain that that's correct. Actually, you know, I'm certain that's right. I don't know why I know that. I'm sure I picked it up somewhere. Okay, so I've got a good start on both hips. So now, let's go. I'm going to do this just fine. I like stretching my toes. I'm going to go ahead and get my toes a little stretch here. Oh, actually, this is a good, this is an okay stretch for the thighs, the way I'm doing it. Okay, here we go. I think we're going to try something, just different. I've been doing the same camera angle. Let's see what this does. Okay, so I've got my right leg centered over the U shape there. Now, when I place my leg here, that's going to be bad because I'm going to put pressure on my ankle. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm a little further up on the pillow. Oh yeah, that's already a nice stretch right there. And actually, it occurs to me, I'm going to change my mind on something. Now, it doesn't slide very well. That'll work. All right. Nope, I'm going to break it if I do that. So I think I just did. The heck with it. I'll just manage. Work within the constraints that are around you when you can. Okay. Oh, yeah. That's a crazy good start right there. No, not chest. I'm sorry. I can't do that right now. Not for this pose. Good boy. Thank you. Oh, got myself a little, there we go. A bit off balance there. There we go. I'm fidgeting way too much for this to be effective. That's it. That's much better. Oh, no, 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 no. Oops, there's that knee thing. There we go. Got to make sure that foot's rotating, pointing straight up. There we go. Ah, oh, that was huge. Even though I was jabbering at the beginning or fidgeting, oh, that was big. And when I say it was big, both the left side and the right side. And I think it was as big as last night or 2 nights ago, but I'm not doing that breathing thing. Oh, man, though. My right hamstring feels so stretched. Also, I could tell something was happening in my left hip in a good way. So one of the things I'm noticing, if I can't really get both my legs straight, the left leg is sort of kicking back a little bit, and I'm getting this more opened up as I do this more. So over time, this is going to hopefully get me to where I can get my hip over, which is, if you are into, say, for example, Taekwondo, that's how you do a side kick. I'm sorry, wait, roundhouse, not side kick. Please forgive me for saying that. You still want to get your hip over for a side kick. So when you come up for a side kick, you come up, over, get your hip over, and then push out with your heel. And for the roundhouse, you come up and you come over, and that's weird, more like that. Okay, other side. I'm delaying. Ooh. I still get excited at the feeling that I'm feeling right now. You can feel, or I'm feeling, the muscles stretching, which means the fibers are relaxing more and more. The sarcomeres are giving up the ghost and fully expanding and allowing more of the muscle to relax deeper and deeper. In doing this, I'm building proprioception and interoception skills, and at the same time, more fibers are going into the muscles for proprioception and interoception. Maybe interoception, not proprioception, actually. And so, over time, you're building up your muscle fibers as well as your neural fibers. This is parasympathetic dominant, so you're also encouraging storage rather than consumption of energy. Wow. Just feeling the front of my right hip just stretch open and just let go, let go, let go. It's very relaxed right now. Notice I haven't moved my right hip hardly at all, or my hip flexor at all. Okay. Yeah, wow, that was a hell of a stretch. And I think I'm going to call it an evening. Have a good night. Okay, hang on. Let's see. Tell you what, let me do this. Since we're here. Oh, come here. Actually, this is turned off. I don't like the way my right foot's feeling at all. That's better. One of my toes was messed up somehow. I'm not exactly sure how, but now it's not.